Good. Nice. Very nice. One more, please. One more. This looks great. One more. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Some new guy.
A great event. So you are intending to interview to this afternoon or tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow. Not today. Oh, no, tomorrow afternoon. Okay, thank you.
IPI has worked together with the Office of the PJ on many issues, including peace building and sustaining peace, which the President identified as the key priorities for the 72nd session. In order to help to realize the goal of sustaining peace, the advisors in their report emphasized the necessity to have a better understanding of not only the root causes of conflict, but also, if I may say so, the root causes of peace facing multilateralism, as well as the future of the United Nations. And we are very fortunate to have with us today the internationally acclaimed journalist Femi Ilke to moderate the first session, the future of the rule-based system, multilateralism under threat. The second session, a stronger General Assembly for a stronger United Nations, will be moderated by one of the members of the team of external advisor, namely the British journalist and author Nick Gowing. And it is now my pleasure and my honor to invite Miro, the President of the 72nd session of the General Assembly, to deliver his opening remarks. Miro, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Terry, for your nice introduction, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us this morning. When I was elected President of the United Nations General Assembly, I knew right from the beginning that I would like to form a team of external advisors, because these are the people who can bring a new perspective, a different perspective on the issues we are dealing with. And of course, they also represent some sort of reality check on how are we doing and what we should be doing better. And I was pleased and honored that this team of accomplished personalities who know everything about the world of politics, international relations, and also the United Nations accepted to help me with this task. And we had 4 formal meetings during this session. We were in touch during the year, of course, via emails, phone calls, and together with my team, we also thought that once we are all here in New York, it would also be interesting and good to offer their wisdom and to share their views on current issues with the wider audience. And I want to thank Terje and his team at IPI for hosting this event, which I'm sure will be very interesting. I should also like to say that I'm very sorry that only one woman who is member of my team, Her Excellency Amina Mohammed, was able to make it to New York today. So the panels are not as balanced when it comes to gender as I would wish to see. And you know that these issues are very important, but please don't judge us by the composition of the panels. It's simply the fact that the other ladies could not make it to us, so I hope you will accept this. Now to the theme of our first panel, the future of a rules-based system, multilateralism under threat. Here we had a discussion again with my team whether or not there should be a question mark at the end of the theme. But unfortunately, we concluded that there is no room for question mark, because there is no longer a question whether multilateralism is under threat. It's a sad reality, and we cannot deny it. Multilateralism is indeed under fire. I believe that when the United Nations was created in 1945, it was based around 3 main ideals. First, inclusion. That means to get rid of the caveats and restrictions of the League of Nations, and that's why we have now 193 member states of the General Assembly of the United Nations. Second, to create a system which is based on rules, and rules that would apply to everyone, no matter their size or influence. And thirdly, a system that is based on compromise and cooperation. which means that the idea was that instead of pursuing own agendas, which had, by the way, led us to 2 world wars, we could compromise and cooperate for common goals. But now, as we can see, these principles no longer seem to be universally accepted and cherished. We are seeing trends that go in the opposite direction. We see a return to bilateralism and exclusive clubs. We see an erosion of the rules-based system, and we also see that there is a failure to see that although multilateralism does require compromise, this compromise also means that we all win, while the me-first policy can in fact put us all in danger. So that's why there is no question mark on the theme of this first panel. Multilateralism is under threat. I can also recall the words of the German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas, who spoke to the German Ambassadors Conference lately, and he was again drawing from a book by well-known American academic Robert Kagan that he described today's world as a free interplay of powers with changing alliances in which the strongest dictate the rules. And Heiko Maas said, and I agree with him, that we must resist this to the best of our ability. So I would like to wish this first panel to help us to find answers how to do it, what shall we do differently, what action is needed. We definitely need to think outside of the box, we need to engage, and we also need to be seeking for answers to the questions whether and how the United Nations can lead us in resisting these current trends. Do we have a proper leadership in democratic part of the world? How does the United Nations fit in with other multilateral organizations, such as, for example, World Economic Forum? And finally, are we talking enough about these issues and in the right way? So these are the questions that I would like to put to our panelists, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion that is expected. Thank you very much.
I think that's a question for the PGA. Because you're in the way. Come up here with the microphone. Sorry, move the microphone up here.
I'm not the panelist now.
I know, but you're part of the conversation. What steps are being done right now, would you say? I'm intrigued.
If you speak about relevance of the United Nations,
Credibility.
credibility,
Credibility.
there is all the goodwill on the side of the United Nations. The organization can go as far as the member states are willing to let it go. And our credibility is, of course, by the good intentions. And the United Nations is dealing with a noble idea. I mean, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by the General Assembly, and mostly lately the Sustainable Development Agenda, which is a transforming agenda for this planet, was adopted by the United Nations, by the General Assembly. So no one can suspect that there is not enough goodwill and credibility. But it's the member states to implement the decisions. So we need to ask what's the level of commitment, what's the level of honesty when it comes to deliver on what has been agreed here in the General Assembly.
Thank you. Let's reassign the microphone. So put your hand up if you wanted to ask a question, and let's get...
Let me go to the President of the General Assembly to make a few opening remarks about a stronger General Assembly and a stronger United Nations.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the first panel, and I'm sure the second one will be equally interesting. It's called A Stronger General Assembly for a Stronger United Nations, and believe me, I've learned something about the General Assembly during this last year, not only from chairing or presiding over the General Assembly sessions, and we have had 112 as of today, and there will be a couple of more, and I presided over more than 70 of them, but also, and I would say mostly, thanks to many meetings I had with representatives of member states. I had more than 440 meetings of this nature. What have I learned about the General Assembly, or what's my perspective of the General Assembly? I would stress 3 points. First, it is an equal playing field. That means once inside the General Assembly, every country has the same votes, no matter their power, wealth, or size. And as Prime Minister Patriot Balsemao said that we are equal, but there are more equals not in the General Assembly. We are all the same in the General Assembly, and it's up to each country how agile, active, and creative they are to use the same footing. The second point is that the General Assembly is the place where anything can be discussed. So General Assembly can put any issue on its agenda. The agenda is very flexible, and looking back, you see that it has dealt with climate change, with development issues, with humanitarian issues, with issues of peace, with issues of human rights, and so on and so forth. So that means there is no limit for the General Assembly on what to put on its agenda. And third, it's also a global source of checks and balances, because the fact is that we have 193 viewpoints of different countries, making sure that the Assembly is focusing on issues that are important and relevant for this planet. There is no doubt General Assembly is probably the most legitimate international body, the most legitimate voice in this world, not necessarily the most efficient. Obviously, deliberations among the 193 are not always easy and simple, but the legitimacy is unquestionable. Looking back at this 7-second session, very briefly, what are the major achievements? The number one for me is the agreement on the text of the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration. First ever multilateral framework addressing the issue of migration. It is yet to be adopted formally in December in Morocco, but the fact that 192 member states were able to agree on these documents means a lot. Second, I believe we managed to give attention and prominence to peace, and particularly the prevention of conflicts, which I believe is the essence of diplomacy. If we are unable to protect peace, then we can give up and leave out our work to the military people. And we organized a high-level event dedicated to peace in April, which was the highlight of the system, because we've dedicated a lot of our time and effort investing and promoting the issue. And as a matter of fact, my team put together a book which is dedicated to the peace agenda during the 72nd session. Some copies are available here, and you are free to take them with you. If anyone holds the copy, if you could just show to the public. Yes, that's the book. But there are more. If you are interested, you please contact my office, and we will gladly share the book with you. The third highlight is the promotion of Sustainable Development Agenda. Needless to say, it's the key agenda for this planet and for this humanity, and we were trying to focus on issues where we need to do better. And here I want to mention in particular financing, and need to bring in additional financial resources, because the usual ones, such as official development assistance, state budgets, are clearly not sufficient. So I've organized a high-level event with the assistance of my advisors in June, focusing exactly on these issues. And fourthly, this General Assembly session was very much about reforms. So we have struggled to move forward the effort to reform the Security Council. We are now finalizing the reform of the General Assembly, the process that is called revitalization. And this is the process that produced transparent selection of the current Secretary-General, transparent selection of the next President of the General Assembly. But we also processed 3 reform proposals submitted by the Secretary-General: Peace and Security Reform, UN Development System Reform, and Management Reform, and General Assembly delivered on all these. So these are, without going further into details, these are the 4 major achievements as I see them as a president. Now, let us talk about how we can make a General Assembly even stronger, because the stronger General Assembly makes a stronger United Nations. And how do we see the future role of the General Assembly? Because it is the most representative international body, but how to make it also the most relevant international body. And this is what I really hope our panelists will help us to provide answers to these questions. So I'm very much looking forward to our discussion. Thank you.
Just before you leave the microphone, can I just ask you, have you seen significant change in your time in terms of process or anything else which we should bear in mind as we address this?
One of the issues I feel very strongly is that regardless of all the excellent means of communication, we don't communicate. And we have less and less dialogue, and dialogue is, again, as I said, our working tool number one. So I've addressed this issue several times, and then someone told me, if you feel so strongly, why don't you do something? And we've introduced a morning dialogue series, informal meetings with permanent representatives on issues that are relevant but are not duplicating the formal agenda of the United Nations General Assembly. We held 14 of them, and I was astonished by the strong positive reactions from the permanent representative. The dialogues were extremely intense, very complex, very competent, and produced a number of excellent ideas. So it shows that there is a feeling that we need more dialogue.
And were they acting on instructions, or were they?
No. That's the beauty. They were acting in their individual capacities under Chatham House rules, but it was a free-flowing discussion, very competent. And what I'm very pleased is that the process of the revitalization of the General Assembly now formalized the morning dialogues. There is a paragraph requesting my successor to continue with this format, and the fact that there is a quest for dialogue, and there is a high-level interest among the permanent representatives to engage in these informal meetings where relevant issues are discussed is a very strong positive sign.
And what impact has that had on process? And when you say there's a stiffer assembly, there's a paradox here, isn't there?
Yeah, it does have, and it may have even stronger impact on the processes, because this is exactly how you can unblock the processes that are stuck. So you get out of the official formal meeting room, you sit down and you talk. Why do we get stuck? Why can't we get a more progress and better results? And this is how you can really help to answer the questions or unlock the processes which we are able to do in formal settings when you are acting under instructions.
Fascinating. Let's hope that's endured. But I wanted to ask the President that, because that will underpin some of the perceptions that maybe you've got, because of course this does happen under Chatham House rules, and therefore presumably nothing is said about it.
Nothing is said about it, but we are issuing a book, and we actually already produced a book. It's a fascinating book. It's a book that has lots of pictures that show the power of dialogue, because the pictures are taken when the PRs don't pay attention. And you see how deeply engaged they are in the dialogue. And second, the book contains the best quotes. So it's full of ideas, not lengthy text, but many quotes on many relevant issues. I love the book. We are going to present it. We are sending it out to the delegations this week, and I'm sure you will love it the moment you see it.
And did anyone violate confidences behind your closed door?
Not that I know.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Please. Right, let me introduce the three. President Lajčák, can I come to the Security Council issue? Can you help us understand where you think it's got to on the technicalities? There does seem to be this sort of sense of a lot of mud. Things have got stuck. Can you help us understand a little bit for those who are not following every single minutiae of this issue?
I've said several times that the General Assembly is the most representative organ, and that's true. And this cannot be said about the Security Council, because it is widely recognized that the Security Council reflects the realities of 1945. And as the world is changing, for all the international organs to stay relevant, they should also evolve. And this has not been contested. There is an understanding that the Security Council should, in its composition, be more reflecting of today's realities and the shifts in balance of power. But there are then very different views when it comes to how many members the new council should have, what should be the status, the full permanent membership with veto powers or permanent membership without veto powers, extended membership. So there are logical questions that are being discussed. And then there are a group of countries who believe that, as Antonio put it, that similar to other UN processes, the text should be presented and the negotiation should continue on the basis of the text. Well, there is another group of countries who believe that it would be premature to put a text on table because we need more time to engage and to clarify these basic issues, and that tabling the text could actually be disruptive to this process. Both schools of thought are legitimate. What is important is that the one school of thought is not trying to suppress the other. And this is exactly why I called at the beginning of this session for two things: credible process and meaningful outcome. Credible process means a genuine discussion about these complex issues. The process that every member state can believe in and know that this is the process. It's not a proxy exercise, it's a real process when these issues are discussed. And I do believe that we got a credible process. Meaningful outcome is the outcome that when you look back, you see that we have moved the process forward. And this is obviously for member states to judge how meaningful the outcome was, but the fact is that the result of our work this year was adopted by consensus by the member states. So it's a long journey, but it's very, very important, because the fact is that the entire huge work of the United Nations is seen and judged in the first place by the performance of the Security Council. And I've traveled around the world, I've had many meetings with people in many countries, and UN unjustly gets lots of criticism simply because of the situations when the Security Council is stuck and is unable to agree on important issues. And look, in this 70-second session, I'll give you two examples that show how powerful the Security Council is when it can agree. DPRK, North Korean issue. The Security Council was united repeatedly, and it brought about significant change. And also the issue of Myanmar, where we had the unity, and as a result there were important shifts in addressing the tragedy of Rohingya people. Of course, there are moments where the Security Council was unable to act in unanimity, and then obviously was criticized, and unjustly also the rest of the great work the United Nations is doing.